All right, Dental Ventures. We are hitting up episode 13 here, this limited series podcast on marketing tips for startups. If you made it this far, this is what you were wanting all along, right? Hopefully you understand what the process needs to be, but here's the area where we're actually going to talk about your brand identity. How do I choose my colors, fonts? How do I get a logo done? What's my URL? Everything from naming and colors. We're going to get into that. So if you, I mentioned this last episode, if you skip to this episode, you're certainly going to make some mistakes in your branding and marketing. I'm not lecturing you here. You're adults, do what you need to do, but it really won't take long to go back through and listen to the previous episodes. If the goal at the end of year one is to be where most people are at the end of year three, then I implore you to go back and listen to those in order, use the workbook, and begin your journey the right way. And again, if you want to get on a call, talk with me, do a discovery call, all those links are in the show notes. Go there and we can get started on that. So I'm going to jump right in. Let's talk about the name. Okay. So the name, the biggest thing here is obviously you want to reflect your practice's identity, but it can be personal. I've had clients that were like, Sapphire Dentistry, where, it was her daughter's birthstone. That's personal. That's a good story to tell. I kind of like that. So having something unique like that is great. Um, I would also think about, this is why everything we talked about before is so important. What's that 5-year plan? If you end up wanting to have multiple practices, will they all need to be under one name? Are you going to hire an associate that'll one day become maybe a partner, and now you've got to redo the name because you chose your name? So I would think about that too. I would also think about the type of atmosphere you want to create and the patient experience you aim to deliver. It's certainly nice to be, use words that are, fresh dental, calming dental, all those things that can relate to something, right? But I don't think that you have to do that, but there's some cool ways to do that. People that use their name, I'm perfectly fine with that, but you've just got to keep it short and sweet and to the point. Use your name and dental is what I usually suggest for people. I mentioned earlier, what happens in 5 years if an associate wants to buy in and they want their name on it. Okay, well, you deal with it then. You're kind of, most of my clients I see do a rebrand at year 5 anyway. Not that they're spending a ton of money to do that and they're changing names and colors and all that, but that's usually a point where you've got to start thinking about looking at other patient sets, other patient value journeys. You're also going to definitely revamp your website after that first 5 years and probably start moving your marketing strategy in a different way. Because hopefully at that point, you're a referral practice. You don't need a lot of marketing, but you're at that point now, hey, I want to, do some bigger, better things. For our clients, we're getting them there by year 3 because we're trying to get that 5-year plan down to a 3-year plan. But again, there's also considerations for name on geography. I know a lot of people are like, okay, this street name, city name, town name, things near me. That's fine too, because that location helps. I'm not going to lie. People don't want to drive, especially in bigger cities. We're bubble people, right? This is my neighborhood. This is my area. I want my practice right down the road, so I'm not sitting in traffic for 30 minutes getting there. So if it's not on my way to work or something that I can access quickly, you're probably going to have, a lot of no-shows and things like that anyway. So I'm perfectly fine if you want to, name it after geography, but I highly suggest, I love talking to people about name. I love looking at their logos. Set up a discovery call with me if you want me to just kind of give you some advice on what you're thinking. Just don't get, and this is the warning sign I guess I'll give on names, because names can work against you. It's really hard to have a bad name if you're, talking about yourself or geography or something like that. But when you start doing really long names and you've got to put this on a sign and scrubs and it's got to be on a website and those types of things, that can get out of hand. So I had a client one time, we did what we could with it, but he was sold. It was his name, but it was still like Carolina Dentistry at the state, Carolina Family and Cosmetic Dentistry at the state line, with his name at the beginning. So it was, I don't know, it was too much. And it's hard to get the URL to match up on that. It's hard to, shoot, you're spending 10 seconds of a radio ad talking about the name. So just be cautious of those. And then, make sure there's nothing controversial about it. I don't think any of you would do that, but there may be something out there you don't know. Always test a name, talk to friends, family, and just, anybody. Put it on LinkedIn and say, hey, I was thinking about doing a startup dental practice. Does this name, resonate? Positive, negative feelings, neutral? What do you guys think? And people love to help. They really do. And some people, you're going to get people that critique it, and that's okay. I don't think I've recommended reading the 4 agreements yet. I would definitely get the 4 agreements and read that. You don't have to read the Toltec wisdom at the beginning, but it's just a really short, easy book to realize it doesn't matter what other people say about you. Go be you, be authentic, be unique. You're going to have an awesome practice. So I wouldn't worry about it. In that same vein, how do you go about this? Brainstorm ideas, gather your team, gather friends, family members, talk to a professional. I love being a part of this process, like I said, because you make a marketer's job a lot harder when you bring me a bad name, like I was saying. Some other considerations: check legal and trademark availability. If you're going to go across state lines, that name may not be able to be used. You can conduct a search on the United States Patent and Trademark Office at USPTO, and there's on their website. You can kind of go through your state's business registry. If you're going to DBA it, like most of you will, some states will make you go in actually and look in their logs, which is archaic, but just go through that. Whether you should trademark or not, it's up to you. I think in the area you're at, for someone else to just come in and take that is, probably not going to happen. But I'm not a lawyer. I'm not. So when you're going through some of the things with your lawyer, I would ask that question and figure out what's the best for you. Another consideration is search engine optimization, that SEO piece for your website. I always say choose a name that's easy to spell, pronounce, and remember. So if you're like, oh, hey, go to my website, and all of a sudden it's Carolina's Dentistry and Family and Cosmetic, it's too much, right? So make that easy. Incorporate relevant keywords if you can related to dentistry or your services. Even location can help. So, take all that into consideration. Just because you're Shaver Dental doesn't mean you can't be dentistcharlottenc.com, right? Because that's great keywords and gets people to your website when they're looking for a dentist in Charlotte. So, but if you can't get that because most of all of that is gone, do not stress about it, because in today's day and age, that's a small part of SEO. But if you can get it, great. But great SEO people, even good SEO people, they've got to work around on that. Use your name and feel good about it. Talked a little bit about the geographic location. I would definitely highlight that if that's an easy one to do and easy for patients to identify. I would also, I mentioned this, when we talk about scope, I talked about choose a name that allows for that flexibility for future growth and expansion. Don't overly think about this, but have that in the back of your mind. I would definitely avoid specific or narrowly focused names that may limit your practice's services or target market in the long run, right? I am not a huge fan of family dentistry or cosmetic dentistry or family and cosmetic dentistry or adult dentistry. I just keep it simple and let people get to your website and create that clarity there, right? If you don't see kids, they'll know it when they're on your website. So just make sure that the people you want to talk to, everything is clear, right? And then, of course, be careful about the long names. Test your name. Once you have a short list of potential names, that's where I would start to send that out. Send it on LinkedIn, send it out with family and friends, send it out on Facebook, wherever you feel comfortable doing that. And, obviously, our professional look at it too. And then go in. We talked a little about SEO, but check the domain availability. So ensure that the domain name that is associated with your practice is available for your website, because this can be a big deal. So let's just say it's, shaverdental.com and you get that website. That's great and all, but then go in and do a Google search for Shaver Dental. And if a lot comes up, remember, you got to battle all of that when you first start. So just, do that search. Having a consistent domain name helps establish your online presence, makes it a lot easier for patients to find you. So, do go through that process. I can certainly help you with that and help you to navigate it. It's not hard. Go to GoDaddy.com and just type some names in there and see what happens. But definitely once you do that and find one you like, go Google it. Next one, visualize your brand. Consider how the name will look on signage, business cards, how to look on your marketing materials like that. Think about a billboard and then think about scrubs. Generally, if you do that, you're in good shape. The problem I see, and this is mainly, it happens more with colors than it does the name, but people saw it on a screen, right, on their computer screen. It's like, this looks amazing. Then the second they put it on black scrubs, it's horrible. The second they tried to put it on the side of a building, it was cursive and just didn't work out. So I don't go too much into, make your fonts. You can do a lot with fonts. I'll talk about that here in a minute, but just be careful. I want people to be able to see it and understand, what it is. The other thing is trust your instincts. Ultimately, choose a name that resonates with you and reflects the vision and values that you're going to have for your dental practice. That's why, again, back to the beginning of this process, the leadership branding process. What is your vision? What is your culture, your look, act, and feel? Your name should reflect that. Your practice name should also give confidence and trust to patients. So just keep all that in mind. It doesn't have to be fancy. Don't confuse it with a whole lot. Just don't ever think it. And I'll be more than happy to talk with you about it. All right, so getting down here to logo design. So this is where we're actually going to define that brand identity. And this is important. Again, think about the values, your uniqueness, your mission. We went through that patient value journey. What does that look like? Determine the key attributes you want your logo to convey. If you said that your culture is going to, look professional, well, then the logo needs to be professional too. So, if it's going to be more, a friendly looking practice, if you're thinking more about being modern, those are going to be different looking logos. I'll give you a great example of this. I had a guy that was talking about the specific types of moms he was looking for and going after, and he sent me some ideas on what his logos should look like. And I was like, that's very masculine. And since you're going after women, I would start to look at, what women are looking at as good logos now. And, so he kind of settled on something that kind of had that Magnolia, Joanna Gaines kind of feel. And that definitely served him well. So that's why you have to think about things beyond just what you appreciate in a logo. Research and gather inspiration, explore existing dental logos and designs, but also look at other logos and designs. Don't just look at dental. Look for trends, look for color schemes you like, look for fonts you like, graphic elements that resonate with your practice's identity. All of those things are really important. And I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to go and throw this out here. Be careful using a tooth, right? I'm not mad at you if you do, but I think it's done 80% poorly, 20% well. So you remember, you're going to put dentistry or dental or something in it anyway. You don't have to have a tooth, right? Because you're just saying it twice. So there'll be clarity there whether you have it or not. And some of the best logos I've ever seen do not have teeth in them. So don't feel like you have to do that. And that I'll get off my soapbox on that. But again, some people do it tasteful and delivers fine. It's, be careful with that. Also consider how your logo is going to appear on different platforms. So if you think about social media, sometimes that's square. So you might just want to see, is this a logo that can be stacked? If there's a design element to it, can that be put on the top and then put to the side? So think about that. Make sure that any type of signage, business cards you're doing, that works. Next section on this, select colors and fonts. So I choose colors and fonts that reflect your practice's personality and brand identity. I've got a whole blog on this. Let me just put it to you this way. I feel strongly no reds and browns, because reds, I'm going to think blood, browns, I'm thinking just dirt and dirtiness. So consider those psychological associations for people, because that may impact a patient's perception of your practice. Fonts the same way, right? Like if your fonts are scripted, and some men may be like, oh, this is a practice for, I know it sounds weird and trivial, but it's just true. It's a psychological thing. Back to colors, greens and blues and purples. tend to be neutral. They relate to professional hair care, healthcare. But the caveat to this is, I mean, we see a lot of blues, right? Um, I mean, everyone else is using that. So again, I think it's fine to use it. Most do, but if you want to stand out, that's probably not the best way to do it. Black, when done right, black and white can be very classy. That can look great, but again, I would stay away from the reds and browns. Outside of that, I feel like you can do what you need to do. Lighter colors, not as great because it's harder to see that. So think about where they're going to be used. Your logo, it's going to look different on a pair of scrubs than it's going to on the side of a building. It's just going to. I remember we had a guy ordered a mat for the front of his office, and they just could not get the colors right. And he had used these really blended colors. It was very complicated, and it was just hard to get it to print on that mat. So just remember that. Same thing with fonts. Fonts may be hard to read. I talked about scripted fonts. Not a huge fan of that unless they're basic, because they've got to be able to be read. So even if they're scripted, you can't have really narrow lines in something like that. And the flip side of that, some fonts come across really aggressive. So when you used block fonts, I had a guy use block fonts in all caps. And I'm like, it's like you're yelling at somebody through text. Let's simmer this down a teeny bit. So keep that in mind as well. I like, back to the whole tooth thing. So I I like when people use relevant symbols or icons that just aren't the tooth. So yeah, you may want to put toothbrushes and dental tools and chairs and teeth in it because you think you need to. But I'm telling you, incorporating some just elements that make it a little bit more creative, and it's more in a meaningful way, that's just going to go I don't know. I kind of like that. I like how people now are using their names in the practice and then getting, fancy with the creative of like the letter of their last name and making that work for them. That to me is a good way to do it. Just some more kind of, you know, things to think about. Make it simple. Aim for a clean, simple, and easy recognizable design. Make it timeless. Try to make it a little bit versatile so that, where you're going to use it. We've talked about that. Different sizes, formats, backgrounds. It's very important you know that. Test your logo in both color, and then this is another important one, black and white. Because again, you may need that white logo on black scrubs because you used other, darker colors. But so just, test it if you can. And then I would look at iterating and refining it, take feedback into account, go back and say, okay, I probably shouldn't have it. This is a little bit harsh. Maybe I should put it in a little bit softer, fine tune those details, adjust the colors as needed. There's so many ways to do colors. Like green, if you're using a primary color of green, looks terrible. But then if you get more of a green grayish, it can look beautiful. So experiment with those different colors, and don't be scared to tell your designers to experiment a little bit too. Um, Now, speaking of that, how do you get it done? So years ago, we used to offer this, and I mean, shoot, we charged people a couple grand just because we knew it was going to take several iterations. And I was like, this is an expense that gets to be too much, and it takes away budget from other areas. So I usually suggest, we've got a graphic designer that we work with who is great. So if you need something custom, certainly I can hook you up with him, but you're going to pay over $750 for that. I like crowdsourcing platforms. The one I like is 99 Designs. The reason I like it is because I know it, but there's a lot, there's like logo contest or logo, I don't know. There's a ton of them out there. Just Google logo contest. 99 Designs I like because you can get multiple design options, generally a lower price, but you got to provide, this is the thing. You've got to provide clear guidelines to kind of help you communicate what that vision is and what your expectations of what that's going to look like, or you're going to end up wasting a lot of your time and theirs, and you get frustrated, right? So here's what I kind of suggest with people. I've even gotten on there and helped them sort of design an initial logo on Canva. But this is the cheapest way, but I would not use that logo. I would take what you do there and be like, okay, that's 70% there. Now let's have these graphic artists clean it up. Take that to 99 Designs and be like, I like this, but here's what I would like it to, here's how I'd like you to clean it up. Then it's almost like you've done the work for them and you're going to get a professional logo. So definitely, again, back to doing research on those logos. You don't want to have, you know, somebody working on something that's just not going to work for you if, you know, the whole entire community is going to look at it and be like, I don't understand that. Clarity is king. So, um, other thing too is make sure you get all of your files that you need. That, and I'm not going to go into all this here, but when you go into 99 Designs, they'll tell you this. But like you've got PNG, PDF, all these different ways that you need your designs to be. Always get one with a transparent background. That is key. Make sure you have one in white and one in black, and then just get as many versions of it as you can. Horizontal, vertical, all of those things are things you're going to need. So different files, different types of files, you'll need that too. Outside of that, you know, if you want to protect your logo, we talked about trademarks earlier. I don't think that's necessary, but talk to a lawyer. I don't want to give you bad advice here. Maybe down the road somebody would steal it and use it and you didn't protect it, but most of the time once it's out there and being used, it's kind of protected anyway. But like I said, talk to a lawyer. So this was kind of the down and dirty talking about brand identity and all of that. But I do want you to really be intentional with what you're doing. Really think through it. You may already have a name in your head. Don't get sold on that. Do not get sold on that. I think we all do that in the beginning. We're like, ooh, but I've always thought I'd name it this. Just like I had a really cute name for this limited series podcast, and the consultant that I always work with on different projects like this was like, yeah, but that nobody will know how to find that. That's cute, but nobody will know how to find it. And they want this information. So let's just tell them what they're going to get. Right. So that's how we ended up with that. So clarity is king in everything that you do, even your logos, colors, and names. So I know that was a lengthy episode, but let's just keep rolling with it. Let's get into episode 14. You know, what best practices that you need for your website. And I also want to talk to you a little bit about videos at that point too. So look forward to speaking with you in the next episode. Thanks.